Parliamentarians, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, you are warmly welcome to this webinar entitled Disarmament That Saves Lives, Curbing Uncontrolled Flows of Small Arms and Light Weapons, the Role of Parliaments, which is co-organized by the Interparliamentary Union, the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament, the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and the World Future Council. My name is Karin Olofsson, and I'm the Secretary General of the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons. And it's a pleasure to greet you all today, and I thank you all for joining us. And I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished panelists for joining us today to share their expertise, and also my warm gratitude to all the organizations mentioned that are organizing this webinar together. It gives me hope to know that despite the difficult challenges faced by societies worldwide, including the ongoing war in Ukraine, as well as ongoing armed conflicts globally, and the serious consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, as parliamentarians, international organizations, civil society, governments, and diplomatic community, we are still coming together to support each other in our efforts to promote more peaceful and sustainable developed societies worldwide. In order to effectively address the uncontrolled proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and to prevent and reduce armed violence, we must strengthen our common efforts to finally make a change for human security and sustainable development. Before we start, I would like to say a few brief words on the ground rules given the format of today's event. We kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted when you are not speaking. And please note that the webinar is recorded. After the panelist session, we will open up the floor for participants, and we warmly encourage you to engage actively and take the floor to share your experience or to pose questions to the panelists. And for parliamentarians, then we'd like to make a brief intervention. You can use the raise hand function at the bottom line on your screen, or other participants that would like to post any questions can use the chat box, please. Please include your name and organization in your question. And then it will be picked up during the open floor discussion. Finally, the webinar will be recorded in social media. We warmly welcome you to interact with us under the hashtag Assuring Our Common Future or hashtag Parliamentary Action as visible on the screen now. And after these brief instructions, I would like to invite you all to turn on your cameras to take a group photo, please. I'm asking my colleague, Ms. Emmanuelle Tixier. I don't see photos appearing. I don't see the pictures appearing.
Sorry, Karen, did you want photos of everyone who's participating?
Yes, it was the idea to take a group photo.
Oh, okay, I'll see if I can do that.
Yeah, we can take that later in relation to the open floor session. So yeah, good. So then I suggest that we proceed. Thank you very much. I would like to say a few words about the topic of today's event. The webinar today is the 4th international parliamentary event in follow-up to the publication of the Parliamentary Handbook, Assuring Our Common Future. The handbook is co-published by the organizers of today's webinar, along with Parliamentarians for Global Action, and with the support and input from the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs. The handbook was launched at the end of 2020 and focuses on parliamentary action to implement the Disarmament Agenda put forward by the United Nations Secretary General in his 2018 report entitled Securing Our Common Future, an Agenda for Disarmament. This agenda includes a set of goals and practical measures across the entire range of disarmament issues, including weapons of mass destruction, outer space, conventional weapons, and future weapon technologies. On the screen, You can now see the web page where the handbook is available as a web version and a PDF. The handbook provides additional background to these disarmament issues, makes connections between disarmament and sustainable development, including climate protection, and also provides examples of effective policies and parliamentary action, and offers recommendations for further parliamentary action. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, the handbook also includes a focus on disarmament and pandemics. These different chapters you can now see briefly on the screen for your overall orientation. And today's webinar will specifically focus on the chapter Disarmament that Saves Lives, to further highlight the role, opportunities and challenges that parliamentarians face in combating the uncontrolled proliferation of conventional weapons, including small arms and light weapons. As you can see in the handbook, this chapter contains specific recommendations to parliamentarians in their vital work to prevent armed violence, as well as good examples of parliamentary practices to serve as inspiration. Members of the forum, together with other organizations, have in this part contributed with their experiences on policy and legislative processes. So we encourage all of you parliamentarians, as well as other actors working for disarmament, to consult the handbook and have your own orientation of it and familiarize yourself with it. And also please spread it in your networks so that we together can be inspired to further actions as to contribute to more peaceful and sustainable developed societies. And for your kind reference, please find the link to the handbook in the chat box. And the handbook is currently available in English and French. And on behalf of the forum, I am pleased to mention that the handbook will be translated to and launched in Spanish in the near future. And finally, on behalf of the forum, I would like to extend a kind invitation to the parliamentarians present today, or parliamentarians in your network, to join the forum as members. And you can please see the link to our website and the application form shared in the chat box. Without further ado, I would like to proceed and introduce the panelists of today's webinar. And it is my great pleasure and honor to first give the floor to Honorable Aquilini Martin de la Llana Pimentel III, who is a senator in the Philippines. Honorable, the floor is yours. Excuse me, may I? No. If I see correctly here, it's that I'm asking my colleagues in the organizing team if you can please support me. If you can confirm that Honorable Aquilini Martin de la Llana Pimentel III is online.
I don't see him online, but he may have joined under a different name.
Yes, can I ask my colleague from IPU, can you please indicate?
We're working on it.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. Hello, welcome.
Hello. So thank you. A good day to all. It is my pleasure and honor to speak before you today. I extend my utmost gratitude to the event organizers. Thank you for giving me the privilege to participate in this webinar. I laud the IPU's dedication to the cause of disarmament. I am a member of this organization, so for this very issue alone, I am very proud of my organization. I will share with you my experience as the chairman of the Philippine Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, who sponsored the resolution of concurrence with our president's ratification of the Arms Trade Treaty. Let us go over the Philippines' basic rules first on treaty concurrence. Under our Constitution, and I will quote it, no treaty or international agreement shall be valid and effective unless concurred in by at least 2/3 of all the members of the Senate. There are 24 members in the Philippine Senate. Hence, we need 16 affirmative votes to concur in the treaty like the ATT. At the time the ATT was tackled by the Philippine Senate, there were 3 treaties at the plenary level scheduled for concurrence. Number 1, the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. Number 2, the Arms Trade Treaty. And number 3, the RCEP, the ASEAN-led Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. I requested our majority leader to schedule the treaties for interpellation and possible approval based on my assessment of their level of difficulty. I put that in quotes. So that is 1, 2, 3, as I mentioned earlier. And with the cooperation of our majority leader, that is exactly what happened. These 3 treaties were in our calendar for ordinary business from the 2nd week of January to the 1st week of February this year. So number 1, the Treaty for Reduction of Statelessness got 21 affirmative votes. Number 2, the ATT got 16 affirmative votes, the minimum number of votes required. Number 3, the RCEP got deferred until after our elections because we have one scheduled in May this year. In short, the approval of the ATT was no easy feat. I needed to employ some imagination and some strategy. I knew there was resistance. The resistance was due to concerns over national sovereignty, domestic gun regulation, and local arms trade. There may be other reasons, but these have not been stated, so they are unknown to me. I am a lawyer by profession. I practiced my profession before I became a senator. I have not had a client in the arms business, and I have no business related to guns and arms trading. Hence, no one could lobby directly to me out of friendship or past professional relationship. During the public hearings by my committee on the ATT, we gave time to the oppositors to be heard. 2 big groups stated their apprehensions about the ATT. This mostly concerned possible future legislation resulting from membership in the ATT, which might be too burdensome on them. I gave them the assurance that given our democratic processes here in the Philippines, should there be legislation required to be passed by Congress due to our membership in the ATT, the Philippine Constitution itself and the rules of the Senate guarantee their right to be heard and to comment and even to oppose the proposed legislation, which would be detrimental from their point of view to their industry. I, however, pointed out that the mere membership of the Philippines in the ATT would not by itself be automatically disadvantageous to the industry. By the way, I am also the chairman of the Philippine Senate Committee on Trade. Hence, I would also not be recommending any measure or action or treaty to be concurred in by the Senate, which would lead to the demise or destruction of any industry here in the Philippines. So membership in the ATT is definitely or does not give that kind of a danger. So in addition to these personal assurances, we also cited studies and reports. I cited a report from the Center for Armed Violence Reduction, which has noted that the ATT will enhance trade standards and improve market value. Okay, being a state party to the ATT will also signal the Philippines' commitment to upholding international humanitarian law and human rights law, and help to avoid accusations of complicity in atrocities or abuses if arms or ammunition are misused following a transfer or export by one of our manufacturers. We also cited the position paper submitted by a Philippine NGO, Nonviolence International SEA, which concluded that since the ATT was opened for signature in 2013, arms transfers have increased, proving that the ATT has no negative effect on legitimate arms transfers. Hence, my argument was that the ATT will not negatively impact our arms industries in terms of exports or imports. In short, my message was that joining the ATT will benefit our local arms industries. For the other importing countries would know that the Philippines is a responsible trading partner. So in the hearing conducted by the committee on September 2, 2021, as expected, given our presidential form of government, we got overwhelming support from government agencies, which endorsed the Senate's concurrence with the ratification of the ATT. So let us now go to the voting result. As mentioned earlier, the required vote for concurrence is 2/3 of 24 senators. That is 16 affirmative votes. So in the case of the ATT, this is how the Senate voted: 16 yes votes, no negative votes, but there were 6 abstentions. As I have stated earlier, I knew there was opposition to the ATT. So I have reached out to the executive branch earlier, since they are the ones who ratified the treaty and referred it to the Senate for concurrence. If they are serious about the treaty, then they should help in the convincing of the senators. I ask help particularly from the Office of the Special Envoy on Transnational Crime. So no one can really see the future. I never saw the 6 abstentions coming. I thought that there would be a maximum of 3. I thought I had a safe 20 votes. But as I've stated earlier, I got the barest minimum. So during the nominal voting, I got worried when I noticed the abstentions coming in. It turned out I needed each and every vote, and I needed the very last one in order to concur in the ATT. Since under our rules, the Senate President votes last, it was the Senate President, Senator Vicente Soto, who cast the crucial 16th vote in favor of concurrence with the ATT. But in reality, all those votes in favor of the ATT were crucial. Had I lost one, our membership in the ATT would have been lost. It is providential, therefore, that unknown to all until now, I made 2 phone calls to fellow senators just a few minutes before the vote. The first one to someone I suspected would possibly cast an abstention. But I felt that this would not be consistent with his basic beliefs. So as I have anticipated, he told me he had a change of heart and would vote in the affirmative, and he did. The second call I made to Senator Manny Pacquiao, who is my closest ally in the Senate, just to ensure his affirmative vote. I had no reason to believe that he would not support our membership in the ATT. And Senator Manny Pacquiao delivered just as he has promised me earlier. He is a man who is true to his word. So with the barest minimum of vote, the Senate on January 26, 2022 approved on 3rd and final reading the resolution concurring in the Philippines' ratification of the ATT. The Philippines thus became the first ASEAN member state that has fully ratified the ATT. So to the credit of all those who have been involved in this cause, present and past, I believe that we were able to get the required number of votes in the Senate because basically the ground for it has been prepared over a long period of time. The Philippines had actively participated in the negotiating process leading to the adoption of the ATT. So this is from 2010 to 2012, leading to the final conference in March 2013. We have been sending the highest level of representation to all 7 conferences of state parties from the office of the president. These were events before this current administration. But the current president of the Philippines then ratified the treaty on December 29, 2016, and thereafter submitted it to the Senate for concurrence in 2017. But the previous Senate failed to concur in the ratification. So the ATT was submitted to my committee last August 4, 2021. So with the ratification of the ATT, the Philippines is now poised to address its long-time problem of weapons ending up in the hands of criminal groups in our country. Moving forward, the Philippines is prepared to implement the ATT primarily through 4 laws. Our laws are called the Republic Acts here in the Philippines. Number 1, we have the Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. Number 2, we have the Strategic Trade Management Act. Number 3, we have the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act. And number 4, we have the act further amending the illegal, unlawful possession, manufacture, dealing in, acquisition, or disposition of firearms, ammunition, or explosives, or instruments. With that, I am proud to say that ratifying ATT is consistent with the Philippines' policy of championing and leading global efforts on peace and disarmament. We are one of the founders of ASEAN, which enacted a Southeast Asia nuclear-free zone. We played a leadership role in the banning of landmines under the Ottawa Convention. We have supported banning nuclear weapons and the use of cluster munitions. And as part of the broader effort to eradicate the illegal flow of arms, we have worked to implement the United Nations Program of Action addressing illicit weapons. And by way of information, I'm about to end. The Philippine Senate also recently concurred in the ratification of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons on February 1, 2021. So with the ratification of the ATT, I am again proud to say that the Philippines would continue to play its leadership role at the regional and international stages. By setting an example, we hope to inspire our ASEAN neighbors and other countries to ratify and implement the ATT and to collaborate in preventing and eradicating the illicit trade in conventional arms and their diversions to the illicit market, which has caused so much unnecessary and avoidable human suffering. So Your Honors, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us all help address the global arms problem that destabilizes countries and regions and stifles economic growth. Let us help give our world a more peaceful, secure, and stable environment, which is vital as we all strive to heal from the pandemic. However, pandemic or no pandemic, the evil of illicit weapons trade must be stopped in its tracks by the cooperation of as many countries as possible under the ATT framework. So thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Aquilino Pimentel III, for sharing your vital experiences on the progress and the outcome and the ratification status in the Philippines. It's very interesting to hear your inspiring lessons learned, and also that can serve to other countries as inspiration, as you are mentioning, to further advance for peace and security and disarmament. So thank you very much for that. I would like to, I'm just asking my colleague here, please, to confirm, because the next speaker is Honorable Johanna Ebanga Abunutu, a Member of Parliament from the Cameroon, that unfortunately has some connection issues. So if you can confirm if she is online, so we will proceed. Yes. So then I suggest that without further ado, and if you please signal when Honorable Ebanga has managed to join us online. This is the reality in the digital world of today, as we know, with connection challenges in some parts of the world. So we will have understanding for that, of course, and I ask for your understanding on that. So I would like then to proceed and give the word to Honorable Ingrid Rial from New Zealand, please, for a brief intervention. The floor is yours. Honorable Ingrid Leary, welcome. New Zealand.
Hello, I'm just checking that you can hear me.
Yes, excellent,
Apologies.
loud and clear.
Thank you. Look, thank you. It's fantastic to be able to join you, and actually it's very timely coming from New Zealand because today is a day that we have new Arms Amendment Regulations 2021 coming into force. Now, these are regulations that were made pursuant to recommendations from the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the March 2019 terrorist attack at Christchurch, which involved a couple of mosques. It was not actually the first terrorist attack in New Zealand, but very much the first terror attack of both in terms of its nature, the Islamophobia, but also in terms of the scale. And you may recall our Prime Minister worked very quickly in the immediate days afterwards to look at gun laws and to tighten up on them. And so those laws are coming into effect today. And this is not only in response to that, but also in terms of the arming of gangs. We have an unarmed police force. There has been quite a few quite a bit of political pressure for us to arm our police, and our government believes that that would only end up escalating armament rather than disarmament. So we have resisted that very strongly, and we feel that these regulations will also stop firearms going into the wrong hands. So what the regulations entail are additional information for applicants. So licenses specifying the type of records. Businesses selling ammunition need to keep and give more clarity on the rules around transporting firearms and vehicles. There's quite a few bits and pieces. I have to say, excuse me, I'm at home with my son, excuse me. I have to say that it hasn't been completely uncontroversial. Immediately after the regulations were passed, there was a lot of good public will, but we have a large farming community and rural community, and some of those communities feel that the regulations disempower them. So we have been steadfast in our resolve to disarm, and those regulations come into force today. And I can say from a social inclusion perspective, and certainly the city that I'm in, Dunedin, which is a city of settlement for former refugees, many of them from Syria and Afghanistan, that this is a very, very welcome step in terms of making them feel more secure in our society. So it's a move that we're very proud of.
Thank you, Honourable Leary, for sharing important experiences from New Zealand now, based on this, of course, horrific events that succeeded. But at least a light in the tunnel with this strengthened legislation. So I want to commend you on that process also. So I'm asking my colleague just to know, Honourable Abanga, has she been able to join us technically?
I think she's in the webinar, but she needs a couple of more minutes. If Adrian could please upgrade Honourable Itundi, the account with that name.
While they're upgrading, I can also mention that these regulations that come into force today complete a suite of measures which have been taken, which include harsher penalties for gun crime and also introducing of firearm prohibition orders. And actually we have, I'm not sure, I guess from my perspective it's related, but we're looking at hate speech later in the year, and we have also been introducing legislation into the House that will stop the live streaming of harmful digital communications. So all of these are responses to those events of March 15, very timely given the date is nearly March 15, so less than a year since the anniversary.
So thank you very much, Honourable Leary, and also Honourable.
Sorry, that should be 2 years. I've lost a year there.
Okay.
Sorry, that was 2 years.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think we have heard very important, and also, I mean, of course, based in the tragic events as mentioned in New Zealand, but I think we have heard important positive examples on legislative progress, both from Philippines and New Zealand, and once again, congratulations for the ratification on Arms Trade Treaty, EU and Philippines. So I would like to also proceed then, and now I understand that Honourable Abanga from Cameroon is with us. So I would like to welcome you, Honourable Johanna Abanga Agbortun. You're a Member of Parliament from Cameroon and also a member of the forum. The floor is yours. Welcome. Please, she's having technical problems still.
I think perhaps
okay. Okay. Yes, it seems like there are, yes, this is the reality of the digital world with some connection issues. So I would like then I suggest that we proceed, and I would like to then invite Mr. Philip Alpers, Program Director of the Center of Armed Violence Reduction, as the next speaker. So please, Mr. Alpers, the floor is yours. Is Mr. Alpers also having connection problems? Can please?
I think he was kicked out, or he had to. There was also some issue with his internet connection.
Yeah, if I ask, please, Mr. Allen, can you please confirm? As I'm asking my colleague from PNND. Okay, then I understand
Mr.
that
Alpers is not here.
Yes, okay.
But Honourable Ebanga is here.
Okay, yes,
I think you
good.
give the floor to Honourable Ebanga.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. I tried to do that, but I understood she had technical issues. So, Honourable Ebanga, can you please give us a sign that you are with us? I see you there on the screen. I see you on the screen. Can you hear us and see us? Are you there, Honourable Ebanga? Welcome.
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, very welcome. That sounds good. So the floor is yours for your intervention and sharing your experiences on behalf of Cameroon on the topic.
Yeah, Your Excellencies, honorable members of parliament, dear participants, accept warm greetings from Cameroon. My name is Johanna Ebanga Agontui, and I'm a member of parliament in Cameroon, as well as a member of parliament, the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons. It is a true, it's my pleasure to share this virtual space with you today for the opportunity to highlight the role of parliamentarians in relation to the importance of curbing uncontrolled flow of small arms and light weapons. I am honored to represent you today, which is an organization constituted by, with, and for parliamentarians, specifically working for prevention and reduction of small arms and light weapons related to violence. With nearly 300 parliamentarian members across party political lines in 100 countries, our mission, or the mission of your mission, contributes to the achievement of more peaceful and sustainable developed societies by enhancing parliamentary action in the implementation and universalization of international frameworks relevant to the prevention of small arms and light weapons related to violence. The basic statistics related to small arms and light weapons includes over 1 billion small arms and weapons are actually circulating in the world. And I want to say that in Cameroon, the situation is catastrophic. The majority is in civilian hands, and above 600,000 small arms and light weapons. 223,300 people are killed in violence caused by these arms and weapons. They were killed in 2018, and in 2019, the situation was terrible. 2020, it was equally terrible. Armed violence has devastating costs for individuals, families, and communities, according to Small Arms Survey. The situation in Africa, uncontrolled small arms and light weapons, the illicit acquisition and transfer in a reoccurring security dilemma in Africa. The concentration of most of Africans' estimated 100 million uncontrolled small arms and light weapons can be found in crisis zones. In the situation of my country, it can be found in the Anglophone zones, northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, and in the extreme north part of the country, and other security challenge environments, exacerbating and prolonging conflicts, as reported by Oxfam. Apart from causing injury and loss of life, armed violence has severe effects on sustainable development, good governance, and facilitates violation of human rights and gender-based violence. Regrettably, the aforementioned negative effects are aggravated by the global COVID-19 pandemic. In fragile states already affected by social and political instability, the COVID-19 pandemic constitutes an additional challenge reinforcing economic hardship and conflict, in turn increasing the risk of insecurity, civil unrest, and violence. What is the way forward? The urgency of the situation calls for concise, effective steps and concerted action on behalf of all relevant stakeholders, including parliamentarians, the implementation of international instruments relevant to the prevention of illicit arms proliferation. That is the Arms Treaty, the United Nations Program of Action to prevent, combat, and eradicate illicit trade in small arms and light weapons in all its aspects, the 2030 Agenda, and the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda. In this regard, parliamentarians play a vital role through their legislative oversight and awareness risk control instruments, and national and of UNSD Disarmament Agenda. Moreover, given the overall global context, I also welcome the United Nations Secretary General's Disarmament Agenda, and it provides an overarching framework for the broad range of disarmament processes with very concrete steps which we as parliamentarians can implement and follow on. Therefore, I'm very pleased that the Parliamentary Handbook Assuring Our Common Future was published by, and amongst others, the organizers here today, as it is a vital tool supporting parliamentarians worldwide in taking action for the realization of disarmament agenda, including related to preventing uncontrolled flow of small arms and light weapons. There are three main challenges. The three main challenges are connected to the role of parliamentarians in Cameroon in contributing to the reduction of armed violence include the inability for government to rebuild mutual trust among the various stakeholders. The government has been a little slow in increasing public awareness on the dangers of armed violence and their inability to improve and refine the dangers of refine and harmonize the dangers of armed violence. The opportunities we have, those concerned should be recruited into the government or given the opportunity to open small businesses so they can empower themselves economically. Seminars and workshops should be organized to enable them acquire some competencies and entrepreneurial skills for some sustainability. Then prioritize actions. Government should put in measures that will punish the perpetrators to keep down the expansion and acquisition of small arms. And then government should implement reforms and pursue inclusive initiatives and organize high-level dialogue mediated by the United Nations and African Union. Conclusive remarks. The misuse of small arms and light weapons is generally a cross-border activity, such as arms smuggling, criminal and terrorist activity requiring collaboration between neighboring states. In light of these synergies that can be found in the implementation of small arms control instruments at the regional level, it is important that parliamentarians work together, share experiences, sensitize the population, and agree on common positions on way forward as to ensure that actions taken against armed violence are effective. Legislative oversight and awareness raising roles, we as parliamentarians have this responsibility and opportunity to act as facilitators of peace, sustainable development, and disarmament. The handbook, Assuring Our Common Future, is a culmination and expression of our commitment to the efforts and actions formulated in the disarmament agenda. The task remains about change based on further actions. Hence, I invite you to keep working together towards the fulfillment and attainment of this goal. Thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to continue the discussion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Banga, for sharing important perspectives from Cameroon and also from the region of Africa that you mentioned also, of course, where the uncontrolled flow of small arms and live weapons is highly affecting both at human level and society level, and both development and peace and security. So thank you. And I'm sure we'll revert also to all three of you having shared your experiences in the open floor discussion session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Rod Alley. Can you please confirm, Mr. Ali, that you are with us? If I understand correctly, you will share a bit of the expert perspective on the topic of the uncontrolled flow of small arms and light weapons. So the floor is yours. Welcome, Mr. Ali. It seems like, well, I ask for your comprehension. This is reality in these times, no, with connection problems for some participants and from some parts of the world. So we will do a solid improvisation, but to continue with this vital content that we are discussing together. So I would like, while we await that Mr. Ali has solved the connection problems, I would like to invite Mr. Arthur De Forest from the Interparliamentary Union to briefly present a current project on your behalf that is highly relevant to the topic we are discussing at the webinar today. Mr. De Forest, welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. Well, first of all, I would like to wholeheartedly thank the Member of Parliaments that have shared their perspective. I think it's always very useful for us to hear the struggles that parliamentarians go to stop illicit flows of or uncontrolled flows of small arms and light weapons. So there is a very interesting dynamic of the Arms Trade Treaty that needs to be acknowledged, and so that's the humanitarian dynamic, or the humanitarian aspect of it. Of course, it is a trade deal, or like a trade treaty, but the ramifications and the root of this treaty are very much humanitarian in nature. So the IPU is trying to expand participation and push universalization of the Arms Trade Treaty in parliaments through a set of, through a project which comprises a set of different parliamentary workshops in the countries that have not yet signed or ratified the ATT. The question we're asking ourselves is, there has to be misunderstood reasons behind a country's non-participation, the reality on the terrain, and that's something that all three of the parliamentarians have addressed today. The reality on the terrain is not black and white, and that there is no straightforward way to ratifying a treaty, and there is no one-size-fits-all explanation to non-participation. So the core purpose behind the IPU project was to first have a deeper contact with the parliamentarians, right? The parliamentarians, as representative of the people, have a very specific perspective that they can share with us and help us understand better the reasons behind this non-participation. So first, we seek to strengthen the capacities of parliamentarians by talking with them, getting them in contact with experts, getting them to talk with each other, again, as we did today, right? The perspective of different parliamentarians is always something that can be beneficial to problem solving. So strengthening the capacities of parliaments by raising public knowledge of the ATT provision and the principles, but also capacity building and helping countries that have not ratified, help them draft regional and country-specific roadmaps. Again, we want to get very much away from this one-size-fits-all policy and help country adopt ATT and make it work for them. Then we also seek to involve not just the parliamentarians, but a broader scale of media, country experts, and academia because those perspectives are always useful in trying to understand and trying to portray the true reality of small arms proliferation in a specific area. So we consider that very vital to have as complete a scope of opinions as possible in each of our workshop. And finally, advance public debate and trying to discuss ways to advance HT universalization within the country. And at the end of this project, so we're planning to have between 8 and 12 different workshops. And at the end of this, once all of those workshops will have been carried through, we seek to have a creation of knowledge-centered content, which will gather all the perspectives and all the potential reasons for non-adherence, right? We again seek to understand and gathering all of that in a set of sort of a handbook that will be able to be referred to, and pretty much the way we've done today, share perspectives and share solutions. I could go on, but I think that's it for me. Thank you so much. And again, I cannot stress how valuable those interactions are. So thank you to all three MPs who took the floor today.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Forest, for sharing this example on behalf of the IPU on a current topical project that relates to the content that we are discussing today, of course. And I would like to, please, if I can get the confirmation on behalf of Mr. Ali, Mr. Rod Ali. I'm aware you earlier had technical connection problems. Are you with us now, Mr. Ali?
No, Mr. Ali, unfortunately, has lost connection.
Okay. Then I would suggest we proceed in this way. I think we have got several and highly relevant interventions on behalf of 3 countries, the Philippines, New Zealand, and also from Cameroon, and of course with a complementary perspective also on behalf of the IPU. I warmly encourage parliamentarians participating to take the floor and make a brief intervention or share your experience, or of course, if there is on behalf of any parliamentarian or other participant, you are of course welcome to use the chat box to indicate a question to the panelist or take the floor. So please use, as you can see in the bottom line of your screen, you have a raise hand function. So I would invite you, I see first, I would just like to summarize, it's great. I see Honorable Leary, you are first in line for another brief intervention. And then if I saw right, we have Dr. Balakrishna Kirby with us from India also that asked for the word. So I will start with giving the floor to Honorable Leary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm speaking here very much not in my capacity as a parliamentarian, but as a former journalist. I noticed that there was to be a presentation about the status of arms control, small arms and light weapons in the Pacific. Now, my knowledge in this area is anecdotal, but I was in the Solomon Islands when the Ramsey forces went there after the Solomon Island conflict, and there was actually an arms amnesty. And I was able to be there when people were bringing forth their weapons. And having also lived in Fiji, I suspect the situation is very similar, that there is really not a lot of recorded information, if any, about who has possession of light weapons. And there was a huge number submitted in that amnesty. And that was when the New Zealand and Australia police forces went in to support the Solomon Island police force. And it was done on a very much no judgment, no questions, no ramifications basis to try and de-escalate any further conflict. So it was a successful amnesty. By some accounts, I think they felt that they had got 80% of the weapons, but without a baseline, it was very difficult to know. Having lived in Fiji, the situation, I think, is similar. As a journalist, I frequently encountered households that had weapons, and very little, I think, government recording or official recording of how weapons could be obtained and also who had them. It's not like they were available to be purchased commercially, so I don't know where the weapons came from, but if that experience is similar in other countries, then I would say that there is work to be done in the Pacific in terms of understanding how many arms are there and how to be able to have some kind of amnesty or other way of documenting who has them. I think there is an issue there. And again, I just say that not as a parliamentarian from New Zealand, but as a former journalist who used to work in the Pacific.
Thank you very much, Honourable Leary, for your comment. Of course, it is important with a complementary perspective and from a journalist point of view, and also the access of reliable information that can be, and transparency when it comes to reliable information that could be very important for the public, of course, and also for parliamentarians for taking informed decisions. So thank you for making that point. I'm seeing now that we have Miss Ellie Kytomaki with us. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. There are some issues before. Are you able to join us now with briefly sharing your perspective on behalf of the United Nations Regional Center for Peace and Disarmament in Asia and the Pacific? We are delighted you are with us, Ms. Kytomaki, and the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure I'll be able to share much. I'm not feeling very well at the moment, but I just wanted to check in as much as I can. If it's okay, I would rather like to just observe at the moment and not make any sort of presentation.
Okay, and then I think all the respect for that, Ms. Kytomaki. Then I would suggest, because we got a question, as you're an expert on the topic and you have a long vast experience on these issues, I know that very well. And we have a question in the Q&A box, and maybe if it's possible for you to respond to that. Let's see. What can be done to ensure stronger controls on arms brokering and end-use certification? Would you have some input on that question on your behalf, Ms. Kytomaki?
On arms brokering and
end-use control.
Well,
end-use control or end-use certification. I mean the control on arms brokering.
Yeah, arms brokering is a tricky thing because I think from the point of governmental control, it all starts from having proper legislation to have something to control brokering. If you don't have that sort of legislation, then all arms brokering is kind of illegal arms brokering, or well, it's just not controlled. So the first thing would be to have proper legislation to control it. And then, it all comes down to what you can do to actually control it. There, I would say it's down to checking individual cases. And if you find something that's not totally, that doesn't look totally legal, then you should just have a control and try to check what's going on. But I don't really have any more profound answer to that.
Thank you very much for your input, Ms. Ketomaki. Then I would suggest, I saw also by the raising hands and the questions that Dr. Balkrishna Kirby from India, that you had a question or wanted to do a brief comment. Dr. Balkrishna Kirby.
I guess he lost his connection as well. Oh,
Yes,
no, sorry.
I'm very sorry.
No,
So I would like to, without further ado, I would like to just open the floor. Please let me know if you have any question. Use the raise hand function, or indicate if you prefer to indicate in the Q&A box that is also in the bottom line of your screen to the left. And I can start. I actually have a question to Honorable Aquilino Pimentel III, based on the interesting experiences that you shared regarding advancing to the ratification of the Arms Trade Treaty in the Philippines. What would be your main recommendation? Although it is not one size fits all for all countries, it has to do with the context. But what would you give as a main recommendation for any country that are in the process to advance towards the ratification of the Arms Trade Treaty? If it is a main takeaway that you would like to share.
There must be political will to do it. One thing which went in favor of the ATT here is that as chair of the committee, they could not lobby with me at the committee level. Hence, it was forwarded to the plenary level. So, but I just got surprised with the lobbying power of the arms industry here in the Philippines, because they compose maybe less than 0.01% of our GDP. And yet, imagine we almost lost. I never thought I would get just the barest minimum of votes. But thank God, and luckily we are fortunate, as I have stated, the required number voted for it because if you look at the Philippine setting, maybe the ground really has been softened to be more accepting of the ATT.
Thank you very much, Honorable Pimentel, and also emphasizing the political will. It is key, of course, and together in combination with a concrete strategy, as you mentioned. So now I'm noting that Dr. Balkrishna Kirby, you are with us. Welcome. If you would like to make a brief comment or have a question to any one of the panelists, and you are very experienced also on this topic, I know. It's a pleasure to see you, although on the screen. So please, Dr. Balkrishna, and if you present yourself.
Thank you. India is a subcontinent having the population of 1.3 billion, and we have the big problem of the illicit trade of small arms. Northeast India, 7 provinces of Northeast India, India-Pakistan border, 3 provinces, and 4 provinces in central India. We have the very, very big problem of the illicit trade of small arms. Every day, 12 persons is killed due to illicit trade of small arms. We have to educate the parliamentarians. And with kind support from the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons, we have arranged a conference in Hyderabad, South India, where our parliamentary minister, Mr. Bandaru Dattatreya, he was with us. And through him, we take the message to the India Parliament. And he asked the government of India what step they are taking to control the illicit trade of small arms. Our one parliament is from Nagaland, Dr. Longri. He is very, very active, and he is spreading the message of parliamentary forum in entire Northeast India. Public education and awareness in India for the parliamentarians are very must, because they are busy in their constituencies, they are busy in their work. We have to go to them, we have to contact them, and we have to educate the people. We have to print some small brochures because they don't have time to read big books, a big report. We have to print, which we have printed with the parliamentary forum support. And we handed over these brochures which give the information in nutshell, and we are spreading the message of the nuclear as well as the nuclear weapon free world, as well as the curb of the illicit trade of small arms. Government of India is with us, because Indian government or India is one of the big problem due to terrorism, those who are bringing the weapons across the border. And if we go to the people, we can build a strong public opinion that government of India will take the role. And hopefully with the parliamentarians around the world, and with Karen and with Alan, experienced people like you, we can do that. So I'm hopeful that you will guide us in our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Balkrishna, for sharing that experience from India, and also the importance also of parliamentarians, of course, and parliamentary efforts in relation to the public, to the constituency. So, and also in collaboration with civil society actors. So I would like to, I'm checking here the Q&A box. I do not see any more questions there, but I'm encouraging you. Any honorable parliamentarian present, please, I welcome you to give a brief comment, intervention, and you are welcome to press yes. So we have Honorable Ebanga, I've noted. So Honorable Ebanga, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you. Is the forum and other parliamentary organizations like the IPU thinking of partnering with African parliaments to create a parliamentary forum that is African-based and attached to the parliamentary forum for small arms and light weapons? One of the advantages we think that will bring to us is it will enable us share experiences and look at the way forward. We'll also be able to share practices. For example, if there are things that are happening in Tanzania and happening in Cameroon, it will be easier for us to share practices and see how we can curb the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ebanga, for that suggestion that I'm also, on behalf of the forum, taking with me, and also to the international board of the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons. And just to mention that already today, currently, it's one of the purposes, and this is happening continuously among the members of the forum today, that there is a sharing of experiences, both in a more structured way by the capacity building seminars and the policy material, and also in a more informal way between parliamentarian peers. So this is happening today, but I definitely think that you are right on that more can be done in this regard on behalf of the forum and other organizations. So, and please, Mr. Ware, you wanted to make a comment. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So my name's Alan Ware, and I'm the Global Coordinator for Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament. And we're very honoured to be co-sponsoring this event along with the Parliamentary Forum on Small Arms and Light Weapons and the Inter-Parliamentary Union. And just in response to Honourable Ebanga, some of our networks in African parliaments are working with us on an event that we're planning on parliamentary action for disarmament in Africa. So it'll be an African regional event. And small arms and light weapons is one of the topics we'll be looking at. So we don't have the date yet, but we are planning a regional event. And so we'll be back in touch with participants from the African region once we have some of the details organized for that. So thank you very much, because we do see that that would be a very, very helpful approach to sort of to advances amongst the African regional parliaments on the small arms and light weapons. But we'll probably also touch on one of the other issues from the handbook, because with some of the growing tensions in the world, the nuclear disarmament issue has also been one that's been raised by some of our members in African parliaments as something that they would like to find out more about and what they can do in that region. So we'll be following up once we've got some more details about that event, which we're planning to hold, I think, in possibly 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. And I think it's and I think it's excellent also that different opportunities are displayed here in response to your question, Honorable Abanga, and the importance to see. I mean, you raised on behalf of PNND, Mr. Ware, and on behalf of the forum, we are also planning a regional seminar in Africa in June, and we'll also revert with more information on that. And in the Asia Pacific also in June is the plan. So we will duly inform you on these initiatives and are eager to gather as many parliamentarians as possible, of course, to advance on the topic. So please let me know in case there are any. I'm looking here, please, my colleagues, help me if I'm missing out of anything here. I'm checking out for any raised hands. I do not see any more for the moment. I encourage you. Yes, so I'm just checking here. I encourage you, please take the opportunity and pose a question to any one of the panelists, or if any honorable parliamentarian would like to make a brief comment or intervention, you are warmly welcome. The time is now. So I'm not seeing any raised hands. So what I would like to do then is to ask the panelists if you would like to, as a wrap-up, as a concluding remark on your behalf, I would like to give you, well, a minute each, if you would like to share some concluding perspective or remark now at the end of this webinar in relation to your previous intervention. So I invite you to that opportunity if you would like to say a brief comment as a wrap-up comment on maximum 1 minute. So please, if Honorable Pimentel, if you would like to start.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this opportunity. Just one insight I also got is that the ATT, I'm referring to the treaty itself, seems to be also a victim of false news or misinformation. They fear that this will stifle or prevent countries from defending itself. This will lead to difficulties in the arms business, the legitimate arms business. So my conclusion is that we need to address all of these misapprehensions or misconceptions about the treaty. So head on. So if your processes include the committee hearings where the decision maker or legislator interacts with the society at large, including the oppositors, give them time, have the patience to really explain and show to them, even point out probably the provisions of the treaty, which show that all of these fears are actually misplaced. And so that is actually my personal conclusion from reading the wording of the treaty, the ATT, and interacting with those who oppose the treaty without, or they may have seen the text of the treaty, but they come up with a different conclusion. So patience is necessary here, and patient interaction, and maybe plus deep understanding of the provisions of the treaty, so you can confidently explain to those who are worried about the treaty that they should not be that worried. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Pimentel III, and for that important comment on addressing the misconceptions regarding the Arms Trade Treaty as to advance for ratification. Thank you for that. I would like to give then a final brief comment to first Honorable Abanga and then Honorable Leary, if you would like to mention any brief concluding comments. So Honorable Abanga, the floor is yours for 1 minute concluding comment.
Yeah, I want to sincerely thank you guys for organizing this webinar, and I was excited to know that there will be a seminar workshop in Africa. On behalf of the parliamentarians in Africa, I'm requesting that the seminar be organized in Cameroon, because it's going to help us, sort out, acquire experiences that will enable us solve some of the problems that are existing in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Abanga, and for always being so both competent and constructive. And I'm taking your advice with me, of course. That's much appreciated. And Honorable Leary, would you like to provide a brief concluding remark?
Sure. I would just also like to acknowledge my colleague Simon O'Connor, who is one of tuning into the webinar, who has been working a lot in this space and is a more experienced politician than I am, but it's good to know he's on here. And look, I think we would both agree that New Zealand is proudly a strong advocate of disarmament. It's incredibly important to uphold and develop rules and norms governing the use of weapons and prohibit the use of those the international community finds unconscionable. The ATT, which was concluded in 2012, with export and import controls and setting standards for international arms sales, we ratified that in 2013. And through it, we manage our export control regulations. So that treaty provides really important collective security benefits by promoting international cooperation and transparency in order to better prevent the illicit trade in small arms. And it also prohibits the export of small arms under certain conditions where the weapons could be used to further the commission of genocide or a crime against humanity, for example. So the ATT has been brought a really important benefit to the Pacific, given the well understood risks that illicit trade in small arms can bring. And although New Zealand's focus for weapons is on the ATT, we do report to the UN under the Programme of Action and keep abreast of its developments, given its importance in the Pacific. And I think the events that we have seen in Europe have shown us to expect in a way the unexpected, that we need to make sure that we're prepared so that events can't take a turn where we haven't thought through these things and prepared the groundwork. So I think for all of us, and certainly down in this part of the world, watching what's happened in Europe and the Ukraine and Russia has made us give a lot more thought and attention to disarmament generally, to sovereignty and to peace and security.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leary. And I would like to thank you all, distinguished panelists, for sharing important perspectives. And I also want to commend you for your hard work. I mean, both in the Philippines, as shared from the Philippines, as shared from Cameroon, and as shared from New Zealand. These are vital efforts as to advance towards a sustainable world and a more peaceful world. So keep up your professional efforts and important efforts. And on behalf of the forum, I would also like to, as a way of wrapping up, I would like to thank you all that have participated in this webinar. Warm gratitude to you all. And I also want to extend heartfelt gratitude to the organizations co-arranging this webinar together with us. The Interparliamentary Forum, Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament, the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and the World Future Council. So warm gratitude to all of you. And indeed, given the state of the world today, it is more important than ever, of course, to keep the focus on disarmament as to reach sustainable development peace. But it's also important to work together, to collaborate as to achieve more solid results globally. So warm gratitude to you all, and please stay safe and healthy, and we will revert in various channels with further information and updates on our activities, all of us as organizers on behalf of the respective organizations. So thank you very much. Take care.